We'll start with Jaylen Johnson and Levi Sneed, probably the two biggest cornerbacks that the Steelers could approach in free agency today. They got a bit of bad news. Chicago Bears general manager Ryan Poole said that they are in conversations with Jaylen Johnson, that they're positive conversations as of right now, and they're hoping to get a deal done as soon as possible. And Levi Sneed, on the other hand, has been recruited to the Philadelphia Eagles, or is being recruited to the Philadelphia Eagles by a number of his former teammates, according to Tony Pauline, NFL insider. You hear both of those things. Let's start with Jaylen Johnson getting a deal done. Does it shock you? And do you think it's a spot where the Steelers at this point may be missing out on their top guy?
Well, as far as Jaylen Johnson goes, I don't think anyone from the Bears is going to say, yeah, man, these negotiations are going awfully. Like, we have no shot of getting this guy, of keeping this guy in Chicago. So I'm sure they're given a really good front-facing position. They're telling everyone that things are going well. Who actually knows? I'm sure there will still be opportunities for the rest of the league to court Jaylen Johnson, because I doubt there's really a team out there that wouldn't want a guy like that. So I'm not counting the Steelers out just yet. I know it'll be a hefty price tag, but especially with the way the salary cap went up, I don't think you can count anyone out, really. I mean, I know the Bears have, I think they have the most cap space in the league, if not,
I'm
their
pretty
top
sure.
three. Yeah, if not their top 3 or 5 or something like that. So they're going to have money to throw around, but so do a bunch of other teams now. Like, they're not the only ones who do. So I'm not counting the Steelers out on Jaylen Johnson yet. Same thing with Levi Sneed. I think that salary cap increase really opened the door for a lot of different teams to maybe take bigger swings in free agency. So, like I said, not counting the Steelers out yet, but you can't ignore that they are fighting a bit of an uphill battle to get some of these big name free agents. So, and the thing for me is, the biggest thing is that there are only a few free agent corners that I think the Steelers can add and really make obvious upgrades to their defense. Like, they've got to be elite guys in order for the Steelers to consider them, and then for those guys to be clear and obvious upgrades. So it does seem like the corner market's thinning out a little bit, but I think there was already only a real upper echelon of guy. Sneed and Johnson were obviously there, but I think Kenny Moore is one of those guys too that you might consider that would be upgrades for this defense. So I feel like past those top 3 or 4 or so, you're going and you're thinking NFL draft, and you're feeling much better about those guys.
I agree. I think there are a lot of options in the NFL draft. I think you could look at it and say Jaylen Johnson and Levi Sneed, cool, and we'll talk about Levi Sneed here in a second, but good names. I think good names to have, but maybe for the price tag that you're going to get one of these guys, and don't get me wrong, like, Jaylen Johnson's an all-pro, Levi Sneed's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. These guys know how to win, and they're very good in the NFL level. If you're just looking at options and kind of security moving forward, the NFL draft's the way to go. Also, and maybe I'm just skeptical here, but there's a long list of corners in the NFL that are superstars somewhere and then go somewhere else, sign a major payday, and they kind of fall off. And you do take that risk sometimes with these young guys going into their second contract, and maybe the Steelers don't want to take that risk. You hear Levi Sneed being recruited to the Philadelphia Eagles by a couple of his former Louisiana Tech teammates. Let me ask you this. Eagles, obviously Super Bowl contenders. That's a team that's built to win, and that obviously carries some weight. Do 3 guys from LA Tech, the only one who I could really name off the top of my head is Boston Scott, hold any ground to the Mike Tomlin effect and possibly getting phone calls from TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, probably Patrick Peterson, and then Mike T himself?
Yeah, I think those Louisiana Tech guys are going to stay friends whether or not Levi Sneed signs there or not. So
yeah,
I don't know how much that's going to really influence his decision. I think the other thing, I mean, to be quite honest, like, I don't look at the Eagles as the most stable situation in the world,
No.
Like, yeah, they have tons of talent. Yeah, they are a Super Bowl contender, but I mean, it seems delicate, It seems like that thing could kind of fall apart at a moment's notice, That's not to say they will. I'm just saying that possibility is out there. They are not, I think, as sure a thing, and I think this past season proved it. That second half of this year proved it. They are not as sure a thing as some other teams around the league. So you can have your concerns about the Steelers. You can have your concerns about any other team in the league. I don't think the Eagles are a slam dunk if you're like, I need to go win a Super Bowl right now. Like, this team's obviously going to get me, even within a game or two of the Super Bowl. I don't think that's a given with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I don't think the Louisiana Tech connections, and I don't know. I don't think even the fact that the Eagles have a more talented roster really takes the Steelers out of the running at all, because the Steelers, I think, have a ton, like you alluded to with Mike Tomlin, like and TJ Watt and Patrick Peterson and all those other guys. Like, there's a lot to like about the Steelers too.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think when Mike T calls, and it doesn't matter. Like, I think maybe Andy Reid might be the only other coach in the whole NFL that if he calls, you go, all right, Mike T, Andy Reid, Chiefs, Steelers. I think I'm going to Kansas City. I think everybody else, if Mike T gives you a phone call, you're like, man, dude, Mike Tomlin wants me though. It's Mike Tomlin, and I think that holds so much ground. I do agree with you with the Philadelphia Eagles, not the most stable situation in the NFL. Doesn't think that holds any ground. I also think that come free agency, depending on how the Steelers quarterback situation goes, not quarter, maybe free agents are more poised to go to Pittsburgh because they look at it and say, well, they have a quarterback, and maybe that's a team that's on the rise. Maybe that's a team that could make some splash. And on top of that, like if you're going below, like if you're getting rid of, if you're losing your place in Kansas City, everything else is a downgrade. Like you're not going anywhere else going, well, my Super Bowl chances are just as high as the team. Like, no, you're searching for a contract. You're searching for a good situation. I think the Steelers match both of those. I don't think I'd be super worried about that one. I'm way more worried about Jaylen Johnson than the L'Jarius Sneed situation. Would you go L'Jarius Sneed over some of these first, second round options in the NFL draft, especially, say guys like Kool-Aid McKinstry or Cooper DeJean, who is quickly climbing up to be my favorite prospect in this draft, are sitting there at the 20, maybe even early second round where the Steelers might be able to make a move?
Well, I would love to hear about why you love Cooper DeJean so much these days. But we can talk about that later. I think I would go Sneed over, just because he's the proven guy. And
Yeah.
I think my attitude about the Steelers this offseason, as they kind of approach the draft and free agency, is kind of now or never, to be quite honest with you. I just look at a defense that is getting older, a defense that, they've got some young pieces, don't get me wrong, but like your superstars are getting older. And
Yeah.
we've talked about this window a little bit. Like, is it all the way open now? I'm not sure this is the most open it'll ever be. But I just see it as kind of take a swing now, like if you're going to push all your chips to the center of the table, I would do it now. So that's why I kind of feel like Sneed is the guy that you turn to in a moment like this. That's the kind of move you make for a team that I don't think is that far from being a real serious contender. And that's why I'd be more comfortable, I think, making a move like that for L'Jarius Sneed than going towards the draft, especially just because there aren't, I don't know, it all kind of hinges on the quarterback situation, and we'll talk about that in a minute too. But I mean, I don't know. I would like to see them take the bigger swing right now, because you just don't. I don't know. Trying to figure out how to word this. I just don't think entirely how close you're ever going to be again. And so I feel like you got to take these swings now while you've got TJ and you've got Kim and you've got Minka under contract, and you got to make your move now.
I agree with that. Just for starters, Cooper DeJean is a stud, okay? And it would also be so cool to watch the only white corner in the NFL outside of the only real one. Riley Moss, I still think is real up in the air. But even I remember sitting at a dinner with Mike Tomlin. I want to say it was this past year, maybe it was 2 years ago. And we're talking, and he's like, man, dude, there's nothing that gets my juices flowing like getting to talk to a white corner and seeing how they work, because they got to work differently than everybody else. And I'm like, that would just be cool. Cooper DeJean it's just something about it. It's just something about it. I think I agree with you. If I had to go veteran versus rookie, depending on the rookie, like, if you're going to go one of these top two guys and it's somebody that you really feel could be a superstar instantly and make an impact, and you feel enough is left in the tank with Patrick Peterson, then okay, I could see that happening. If it's Patrick Peterson's going to move into the slot, and this rookie's going to come in here, and he's going to be your only option on the outside besides Corey Trice. I'm not totally sold on that move. I think that's when you bring in a veteran, and that makes a lot more sense, just because I agree with you. If the Steelers are going to make a push, you might as well put all your chips on the table and say, screw it, let's go make a push and see how far this could take us. And I think a veteran corner who's proven, who could come up big in these clutch moments, that's huge. I think it takes a lot of pressure off of Joey Porter Jr., who's going to be entering year 2, and there's always a sophomore slump, and I hope it's not there for Joey, but you always have to take that into account. I think you could look at both of those things and say that a veteran probably does make more sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think money-wise, it's not an issue. You know, if you sign Mason Rudolph, I'm down here talking to a couple of people, and they're tossing out the $5 million mark, the $2 for $12 million mark. And
for Mason?
For Mason. That's like the consensus number down here is 2 for 12 with maybe some incentives and like a roster bonus, so you make a little bit more. But if they could get something along those lines done, I don't think money's an issue. You're not into the 2 for 12. I'm all in for 2 for 12 is cheap.
I'm into it. Yeah, that's my point. That is pretty surprising to me. I don't know. For a quarterback that you could see as a starter, like that's real low. I mean, if you're the Steelers, you could go 7. You could go $8 million a year, and I would feel great about that. That would be incredible. Wow, that's pretty shocking.
I could say that it's a conversation that I've had with 2 or 3 people at this point. Three people at this point, and they're all people that there's levels. There's they know what they're talking about. And then it kind of ended with when it comes to Mason Rudolph, this guy knows what he's talking about, and I think we both know who we're talking about here. And when he says things, you got to believe it. To some degree, you got to be like, there's some truth there, because chances are that he just got off the phone with Mason Rudolph, when they just had that conversation. But I think I agree. 2 for 12 I think that surpasses everything. Like, if you're getting 2 for 12 from Mason Rudolph, okay, sounds good. Like, that's fine. That's the quarterback. I feel really good about that situation. Which I guess is another news and note here down at the NFL Combine. Little tidbits that you pick up on in transit. I think that would be smooth. If that could happen, you go out and sign anybody you could get, Right. And it doesn't matter who it is, except for like Chris Jones for $30 million, who people have tossed out there. And I'm like, that will never happen also just in a million years.
Like, not necessary. Like, why would you?
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of other options at defensive tackle. That's not one that I think I would consider.